understand why scientists compare the Skene's glands to the male prostate, we first need to know exactly where these tiny organs are located. Unlike the large male prostate, which surrounds part of the urethra below the bladder, the female prostate is much smaller and is hidden within the tissues surrounding the urethra. Because of its tiny size and deep position, most people are completely unaware that it even exists. Yet its location is carefully designed to support nearby organs and perform specialized biological functions. The female urinary system begins with the kidneys, which continuously filter the blood to remove waste products and maintain the body's balance of water and minerals. The filtered urine travels through the ureters and collects inside the bladder, where it is stored until the body is ready to empty it. From the bladder, urine leaves the body through the urethra. In women, the urethra is much shorter than in men, measuring only a few centimeters in length. Running alongside this short tube are the Skene's glands, positioned near the lower end of the urethra, close to its external opening. Each gland contains tiny ducts that open into or near the urethra. These microscopic channels allow the glands to release their natural secretions when needed. Although the amount of fluid they produce is usually very small, researchers believe these secretions may help protect the urethra by keeping its surface moist and supporting its natural defenses against bacteria. This protective role is especially important because the female urethra is relatively short, making it easier for bacteria to reach the bladder. Modern imaging technologies, including high-resolution MRI scans and microscopic anatomical studies, have helped researchers map these glands more accurately than ever before. Scientists discovered that the Skene's glands contain glandular tissue, tiny ducts, blood vessels, and nerve fibers arranged in a pattern that resembles the structure of the male prostate on a much smaller scale. This finding strengthened the idea that these organs are not accidental structures, but a normal part of female anatomy. The glands are also closely connected with nearby tissues, including the front wall of the vagina and the tissues surrounding the urethra. This relationship allows them to interact with several body systems at the same time. Instead of working in isolation, they function as part of a complex network involving the urinary system, reproductive organs, blood supply, and nervous system. Every one of these structures works together to maintain normal pelvic health. For many years, anatomy textbooks either ignored these glands or described them only briefly. As scientific knowledge expanded, doctors realized that understanding their exact location is important, not only for anatomy education, but also for diagnosing certain medical conditions. Infections, cysts, or inflammation affecting this area can sometimes involve the Skene's glands. One of the most fascinating discoveries in modern anatomy is that the male prostate and the female Skene's glands begin their journey from the same embryonic tissue. During the earliest weeks of pregnancy, male and female embryos look remarkably similar. At this stage, the organs that will later become part of the reproductive and urinary systems have not yet fully developed. Instead, both embryos contain the same basic structures, waiting for hormonal signals that will guide their growth and specialization. As fetal development continues, hormones begin directing these tissues along different developmental pathways. In male embryos, testosterone and its more active form, dihydrotestosterone, stimulate the formation and growth of the prostate gland. These hormones encourage the glandular tissue to expand, branch into many small ducts, and develop into the organ that surrounds part of the urethra in adult males. In female embryos, the situation is different. Because these hormones are present at much lower levels, the same embryonic tissue follows another developmental path. Instead of becoming a large prostate, it develops into much smaller paraurethral glands, commonly known as the Skene's glands. Although they remain tiny, they preserve many of the same microscopic characteristics found in the male prostate. This shared origin is one of the strongest reasons scientists describe them as the female prostate. When researchers examined these glands under powerful microscopes, they discovered striking similarities. The cells are arranged in gland-like clusters capable of producing secretions. Small ducts carry these secretions toward the urethra, much like the duct system found in the male prostate. The tissue also contains blood vessels, connective tissue, and nerve fibers that support its normal function. These similarities are far too consistent to be considered a coincidence. Even more convincing evidence came from laboratory studies. Scientists found that the Skene's glands can produce proteins such as prostate-specific antigen, PSA, and prostatic acid phosphatase, PAP. These substances were once believed to exist only in the male prostate. Their discovery in female paraurethral glands confirmed that these organs share not only a common developmental origin, but also important biological functions. This does not mean that the female prostate performs exactly the same role as the male prostate. The organs differ greatly in size, hormone exposure, and overall function. However, their shared embryological history demonstrates how the human body uses the same developmental blueprint to create different structures in males and females. It is an excellent example of how small changes in hormonal signals during fetal growth can produce two different, yet closely related organs. The Skene's glands are made of specialized glandular cells. Just like many other glands in the body, these cells manufacture and release a clear fluid. This fluid travels through tiny microscopic ducts and enters the urethra near its external opening. Even though the amount of fluid is usually very small, scientists believe it plays an important role in maintaining the health of the tissues around the urethra. One of the proposed functions of these secretions is protection. The inside of the urethra is lined with delicate cells that are constantly exposed to urine and bacteria from the outside environment. The natural fluid released by the Skene's glands may help keep these tissues moist, reduce irritation, and support the body's natural defense system against harmful microorganisms. While the immune system remains the body's primary defense, these glandular secretions may provide an additional layer of protection. Researchers have also discovered that the fluid produced by these glands contains several biologically active substances. Among them are prostate-specific antigen, PSA, and prostatic acid phosphatase, PAP, proteins that were once thought to exist only in the male prostate. Their presence demonstrates that these tiny glands are not simply ordinary tissue, but are biologically related to the prostate gland in men. The activity of the Skene's glands is also influenced by hormones. Throughout different stages of life, including puberty, adulthood, pregnancy, and menopause, hormonal changes can affect the size and activity of these glands. During reproductive years, they may be more active, while after menopause, hormonal changes may reduce their function. Scientists continue to study exactly how estrogen and other hormones influence these glands over time. Another interesting feature is their rich blood supply and network of nerve fibers. Like many organs in the pelvis, the Skene's glands are connected to surrounding tissues through tiny blood vessels that deliver oxygen and nutrients. While removing waste products, their nerve supply allows them to respond to signals from the nervous system, showing that they are integrated into the body's normal, physiological processes rather than functioning independently. Although much remains to be learned, medical researchers agree that these glands are a normal and valuable part of female anatomy. Instead of being a mysterious or unnecessary structure, they contribute to the overall health of the urinary system and demonstrate how even very small organs can perform meaningful biological functions. As research continues, scientists hope to better understand every role these glands play in women's health. New discoveries may improve diagnosis and treatment of certain urinary conditions while expanding our understanding of human anatomy. Like every organ in the human body, the Skene's glands can occasionally develop medical problems. Although these conditions are relatively uncommon, understanding them helps doctors recognize symptoms early and provide the appropriate treatment. Because the glands are very small and hidden deep within the tissues surrounding the urethra, problems affecting them may sometimes be mistaken for other urinary or pelvic disorders. One of the most common issues is a blocked duct. Under normal circumstances, the glands produce a small amount of fluid that exits through tiny openings into or near the urethra. However, if one of these ducts becomes blocked, the fluid can no longer drain properly. As the fluid accumulates, the gland may gradually enlarge, forming a small fluid-filled sac known as a Skene's gland cyst. Many cysts are very small and cause no symptoms at all. In these cases, they may only be discovered during a routine medical examination. However, if the cyst continues to grow, it can place pressure on nearby tissues. Some women may notice discomfort around the urethra, pain during urination, difficulty emptying the bladder completely, or tenderness in the affected area. If bacteria enter the blocked gland, an infection may develop. This can lead to inflammation, swelling, redness, and pain. In some cases, a pocket of pus called an abscess may form. An infected gland usually requires medical attention. because the infection can become increasingly painful if left untreated. Fortunately, with modern medicine, these infections can often be treated successfully using antibiotics, and in certain cases, a doctor may recommend draining the abscess to relieve pressure and remove infected fluid. Diagnosing Skene's gland disorders can sometimes be challenging because their symptoms may resemble other conditions affecting the urinary tract. Doctors begin by reviewing the patient's symptoms and performing a careful physical examination. When necessary, imaging techniques such as ultrasound or magnetic resonance imaging, MRI, can provide detailed pictures of the glands and surrounding tissues. These technologies allow healthcare professionals to distinguish a Skene's gland cyst from other pelvic abnormalities. Researchers have also reported that, in extremely rare cases, tumors may develop within the Skene's glands. Such cases are uncommon, but they remind us that even very small organs deserve careful medical attention when unusual symptoms appear. Fortunately, the vast majority of Skene's gland problems are benign and respond well to appropriate treatment. It is important to remember that occasional urinary discomfort does not automatically indicate a problem with the Skene's glands. Many different conditions can produce similar symptoms. Only a qualified healthcare professional can determine the exact cause through proper evaluation and, when needed, diagnostic testing. One of the strongest scientific reasons these glands are often called the female prostate. It's not simply their location or their embryonic origin. The most convincing evidence comes from what happens at the microscopic and molecular level. When scientists studied the Skene's glands using advanced laboratory techniques, they discovered that these tiny organs produce several of the same substances that are normally associated with the male prostate. Among the most important of these substances is prostate-specific antigen, commonly known as PSA. Many people recognize PSA because it is widely used as a blood marker in men's health, particularly when doctors evaluate prostate diseases. For many years, researchers believed PSA was produced only by the male prostate. However, careful laboratory investigations revealed that the glandular cells of the Skene's glands are also capable of producing this protein, although in much smaller amounts. Another important substance produced by these glands is prostatic acid phosphatase, often abbreviated as PAP. This protein was also once considered unique to the male prostate. Its presence in the Skene's glands provided additional evidence that these structures are biologically related. These discoveries changed the way anatomists and medical researchers viewed female pelvic anatomy. At the microscopic level, the Skene's glands are made of specialized secretory cells. These cells work continuously to manufacture small amounts of fluid containing proteins, enzymes, and other biological molecules. Tiny ducts collect these secretions and transport them toward the urethra. Although the exact composition of the fluid can vary from person to person, researchers believe it contributes to the normal environment of the lower urinary tract. Scientists are also investigating how these proteins function in women. Unlike the male prostate, where PSA has a well-understood role in reproductive physiology, the precise role of PSA produced by the Skene's glands is still being explored. Some studies suggest that it may help regulate components of glandular secretions, while others propose that it could contribute to maintaining healthy tissues around the urethra. More research is needed before definitive conclusions can be made. Modern molecular biology has allowed researchers to examine the genes active inside these gland cells. Many of the genes responsible for producing prostate-related proteins are remarkably similar to those found in the male prostate. This genetic similarity further supports the conclusion that these glands are not unrelated structures, but true anatomical counterparts that developed from the same embryonic foundation. The human body functions because billions of cells, tissues, organs, nerves, and blood vessels constantly communicate with one another. The Skene's glands are no exception. Although they are very small, they are connected to an intricate network of nerves and blood vessels that allows them to function as part of the larger pelvic system rather than as isolated structures. Every organ requires a steady supply of oxygen and nutrients to remain healthy. Tiny arteries carry oxygen-rich blood into the Skene's glands, while equally small veins remove carbon dioxide and waste products. This continuous circulation keeps the glandular cells alive and enables them to produce their natural secretions. Without this blood supply, the cells would be unable to perform their normal biological activities. Alongside these blood vessels runs an equally important network of nerves. The nervous system serves as the body's communication system, carrying signals between the brain, spinal cord, and organs throughout the body. Fine nerve fibers surrounding the Skene's glands allow them to respond to changes occurring within the pelvis. These signals help coordinate gland activity with other nearby structures, ensuring that the urinary system functions smoothly. The glands also exist within the pelvic floor, a complex group of muscles, ligaments, connective tissues, and organs that work together to support the bladder, uterus, vagina, and rectum. The pelvic floor acts like a supportive hammock, helping maintain the correct position of these organs while also contributing to bladder control and normal daily function. Because the Skene's glands are embedded within this region, their health is closely connected to the overall condition of the surrounding tissues. Researchers continue to investigate how the nervous system influences the glands during different physiological states. Hormonal changes, aging, and certain medical conditions may affect the surrounding nerves and blood vessels, which in turn can influence gland function. However, many aspects of this relationship remain under active scientific study, and researchers are careful not to draw conclusions until sufficient evidence is available. One important lesson from modern anatomy is that even the smallest organs are part of highly coordinated biological systems. The Skene's glands do not work alone. They interact continuously with nearby muscles, connective tissues, blood vessels, immune cells, and nerves. This cooperation helps maintain the normal environment of the lower urinary tract and contributes to overall pelvic health. Advances in medical imaging have allowed scientists to observe these relationships with remarkable precision. High-resolution MRI scans, microscopic anatomy, and three-dimensional reconstructions reveal how closely these glands. The human body functions because billions of cells, tissues, organs, nerves, and blood vessels constantly communicate with one another. The Skene's glands are no exception. Although they are very small, they are connected to an intricate network of nerves and blood vessels that allows them to function as part of the larger pelvic system rather than as isolated structures. Every organ requires a steady supply of oxygen and nutrients to remain healthy. Tiny arteries carry oxygen-rich blood into the Skene's glands, while equally small veins remove carbon dioxide and waste products. This continuous circulation keeps the glandular cells alive and enables them to produce their natural secretions. Without this blood supply, the cells would be unable to perform their normal biological activities. Alongside these blood vessels runs an equally important network of nerves. The nervous system serves as the body's communication system, carrying signals between the brain, spinal cord, and organs throughout the body. Fine nerve fibers surrounding the Skene's glands allow them to respond to changes occurring within the pelvis. These signals help coordinate gland activity with other nearby structures, ensuring that the urinary system functions smoothly. The glands also exist within the pelvic floor, a complex group of muscles, ligaments, connective tissues, and organs that work together to support the bladder, uterus, vagina, and rectum. The pelvic floor acts like a supportive hammock, helping maintain the correct position of these organs while also contributing to bladder control and normal daily function. Because the Skene's glands are embedded within this region, their health is closely connected to the overall condition of the surrounding tissues. Researchers continue to investigate how the nervous system influences the glands during different physiological states. Hormonal changes, aging, and certain medical conditions may affect the surrounding nerves and blood vessels, which in turn can influence gland function. However, many aspects of this relationship remain under active scientific study, and researchers are careful not to draw conclusions until sufficient evidence is available. One important lesson from modern anatomy is that even the smallest organs are part of highly coordinated biological systems. The Skene's glands do not work alone. They interact continuously with nearby muscles, connective tissues, blood vessels, immune cells, and nerves. This cooperation helps maintain the normal environment of the lower urinary tract and contributes to overall pelvic health. Advances in medical imaging have allowed scientists to observe these relationships with remarkable precision. High-resolution MRI scans, microscopic anatomy, and three-dimensional reconstructions reveal how closely these glands are integrated into surrounding tissues. Like many organs in the human body, the the Skene's glands do not remain exactly the same throughout life. Their appearance, activity, and biological function can change as hormone levels naturally rise and fall during different stages of development. Understanding these changes helps explain why scientists consider hormones to be one of the most important factors influencing the female prostate. Before puberty, the Skene's glands are already present, but they remain relatively small and inactive. During childhood, the reproductive system is still developing, and hormone levels are low. As a result, the glands perform only limited activity, while the body prepares for the major changes that will occur during adolescence. Everything begins to change during puberty. The ovaries start producing higher levels of hormones, especially estrogen, while small amounts of androgens are also present in females. These hormonal signals stimulate the growth and maturation of many reproductive organs, including the tissues surrounding the urethra. As the glands mature, they become more active and develop the ability to produce their normal secretions. During adulthood, the Skene's glands generally maintain their normal structure and function. Their activity is influenced by the body's hormonal balance, blood circulation, and overall pelvic health. Although scientists continue to study every aspect of their role, evidence suggests that these glands remain a normal part of the lower urinary tract throughout the reproductive years. Pregnancy introduces another remarkable period of hormonal change. Levels of estrogen and progesterone rise dramatically to support the developing baby. These hormones affect nearly every organ within the pelvis, including the bladder, uterus, blood vessels, and surrounding tissues. Researchers believe the Skene's gland may also respond to these hormonal changes, although the exact nature of these responses is still being investigated. Modern medical science continues to examine how pregnancy influences their structure and secretory activity. Later in life, menopause brings another major hormonal transition. As estrogen levels decline, many tissues within the reproductive and urinary systems undergo gradual changes. Some women experience thinning of the urethral tissues, changes in lubrication, or increased urinary discomfort. Scientists believe the Skene's glands may also become less active after menopause because of reduced hormonal stimulation. However, these changes vary greatly between individuals, and healthy aging differs from person to person. Researchers emphasize that hormonal influences on the Skene's glands are complex. No single hormone controls every aspect of their function. Instead, multiple hormones interact with blood vessels, nerve signals, immune cells, and surrounding tissues to maintain normal pelvic health. As scientists learned more about the Skene's glands, they also discovered that many long-standing beliefs about female anatomy were incomplete or simply outdated. For decades, these tiny glands received very little attention in anatomy textbooks, and many people, including some healthcare students, were never taught about them in detail. Today, thanks to modern research, we know far more than ever before. But it is equally important to separate scientific evidence from popular myths. One common misconception is that the female prostate is a recently discovered organ. In reality, these glands have been described by anatomists for well over a century. What has changed is not their existence, but our understanding of their structure and function. Improvements in microscopes, MRI scanners, ultrasound technology, and molecular biology have allowed researchers to study them with much greater accuracy than was possible in the past. Another misunderstanding is that every woman has identical Skene's glands. Human anatomy naturally varies from person to person. Just as people have differences in height, bone structure, and other organs, the size, shape, and number of ducts associated with the Skene's glands can also vary. These normal anatomical differences do not usually indicate disease. Instead, they reflect the natural diversity found within the human body. Some people also believe that because these glands are called the female prostate, they must perform exactly the same functions as the male prostate. Modern science does not support that conclusion. While the two organs share a common embryonic origin and produce certain similar proteins, they are different in size, hormonal environment, and overall physiological role. The term female prostate is used because of these biological similarities, not because the organs are identical. Researchers are careful to distinguish between established scientific facts and topics that are still under investigation. For example, scientists have confirmed the presence of prostate-specific antigen, PSA, and prostatic acid phosphatase, PAP, within the Skene's glands. However, studies continue to explore the precise biological roles of these substances in female anatomy. Responsible medical research avoids making claims that go beyond available evidence. Another important lesson from modern anatomy is that small organs can have meaningful functions, even if they are not fully understood. Throughout medical history, many structures were once considered insignificant until advances in technology revealed their importance. The Skene's glands are an excellent example of how scientific knowledge evolves over time as better tools become available. Evidence-based medicine depends on careful observation, repeated experiments, peer-reviewed research, and clinical studies. Each new discovery is compared with previous findings before becoming part of accepted medical knowledge. Our journey through the hidden world of the female prostate has revealed that even the smallest organs can play an important role in human anatomy. Although the Skene's glands are only tiny structures located beside the urethra, they have attracted growing scientific interest. Because of their remarkable similarities to the male prostate, their shared embryonic origin, microscopic structure, and ability to produce proteins such as prostate-specific antigen, or PSA, have helped researchers understand that these glands are a normal and meaningful part of female anatomy. For many years, these glands remained overlooked, not because they were unimportant, but because they were difficult to study. Advances in medical imaging, histology, molecular biology, and genetics have completely transformed our understanding. Today, scientists can observe these glands with extraordinary precision, allowing them to investigate their structure, blood supply, nerve connections, and biological activity in ways that were impossible only a few decades ago. We also learned that these glands can occasionally develop medical conditions such as cysts or infections. Although these problems are relatively uncommon and are usually manageable with appropriate medical care, ideas that were once considered complete are constantly refined through careful research, clinical observation, and international collaboration. The story of the female prostate is an excellent example of how medicine grows through curiosity, evidence, and continuous discovery. It is also important to recognize that every person's body is unique. The size, shape, and activity of the Skene's glands may vary naturally between individuals. Such variation is a normal part of human biology and does not necessarily indicate disease. When symptoms affecting the urinary or reproductive system occur, proper evaluation by qualified healthcare professionals is always the safest approach. The study of the female prostate is still expanding. Researchers continue to investigate its cellular biology, hormonal regulation, immune functions, and potential role in urinary health. Each new study brings us closer to understanding how these small glands contribute to the complex systems that keep the human body functioning every day. The human body is filled with remarkable structures that often go unnoticed until science reveals their importance. The Skene's glands remind us that even organs hidden deep within the body can have fascinating developmental histories and meaningful biological roles. By continuing to explore human anatomy with curiosity and evidence-based research, we gain a deeper appreciation for the incredible complexity of life itself. Thank you for watching this educational journey into the anatomy of the female prostate. As medical science advances, our understanding will continue to grow, proving that there is always something new to discover within the human body.